out of
You ready, Ed?
the fire.
6:30, we'll go ahead and call this commission meeting to order. Pastor Hall, if you give the invocation, please, and we'll stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father God, tonight, as we come to this first meeting of 2018, we reflect on the year past and those accomplishments that were before us at the time, those things that we overcame and adapted to meet the need. And we recognize that there are challenges before us in the coming year. We ask, O Heavenly Father, for wisdom, for knowledge, for mercy and grace, and most of all, that we might act with the love that you have given to each of us. And Lord, we will bless you for all that you do on our behalf as you bring blessing to us in abundance. So therefore, we call upon you to inhabit this meeting, to lead, to guide, to direct, and to minister to all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Tallahassee, Hobnobbing.
Jenny, do roll call, please.
Mayor James,
Here.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Here.
Commissioner James,
Here.
Commissioner Blanchard,
Here.
Commissioner Williams,
Here. Do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as is. Approval of the minutes, December 14th minutes. Do I have a motion for that?
Motion made.
Second.
I have a first and a second to approve the December 14th minutes. Any questions, any comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the approval of the minutes are accepted. I'd like to welcome everybody before we get started. Hope everybody had a great Christmas and a holiday and Happy New Year. I had 5 grandchildren, so I'm happy to be back.
In one piece, huh?
And I'm in one piece, so I appreciate everyone being here. Thank you very much.
No money.
Yeah. At this point in time, we'll open up the citizens' requests and comments. And this is for something not on the agenda. And if you'd please state your name for the record, leave your comments to 5 minutes, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
My name is Doris Wright, and I received a bill from the city for $304.10 for water and sewer. And I want you to take a look at it and explain this to me. I never stayed in this house. I only had it for
I would give it to Jennifer.
Can you explain that, please?
Yes.
Well, I would prefer if you could give her an opportunity to. You've had the discussion, okay?
This is her rental house that had a renter in it that never opened an account, and the water apparently was on, and they never paid. So now the renter's gone. She called to get it turned off. When we went out, we said it was already off. When we went out there, it was on. And now we have this bill that she asked not to pay. We have nobody to send the bill to. It is in her name. This house is hers.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
You say it's a rental house. How long were renters in that house without a water bill?
They never came and set up an account because the water was on.
So they were using water the entire time they were there, but it was under her account?
No, the house is in her name.
But you had a
Right.
record that it was turned off, so you never read the meter. The city never read the meter because, so they either turned it on illegally or we did not turn it off. One of those two things.
One or the other. One or the other.
I think when I got ready to sell the house, I came up here, I think I told you, and I wanted them to turn the water on because the water wasn't on.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to turn the water on. I want to know how much would it cost just for the walkthrough. I understand that they do that periodically for people. That was just for somebody to walk through. Next thing I know, I'm getting a bill for $304. It's not my bill. And now I have sold the house.
And if the house is in your name and the water use is in your name, why would it not be yours?
It's not in my name. The water usage is not in my name.
There was no account. She had an old account. But
I never had an account on that house. I never stayed in that house. That have always been a rental property. I never stayed in that house.
So then,
That's the house over there by your sister.
yeah. So in other words, she never had a water bill
No.
at that house,
That's what I was asking.
in her name.
no, sir. But she owns the house.
She owned the house,
She owns the house.
and then somebody was renting the house,
And somehow the water got turned on.
and somehow the water got turned on.
And so now we have a bill that nobody.
How long
Nobody owns.
How long were the renters in there, Miss Wright?
That's what I asked
I
before.
would say 4 or 5 months.
Which would be about right.
I had a situation in a house that I rented out, and I got a bill for the garbage because there was no water bill on. And I had somebody living in there, and she was living in there without water. But I still had to take care of the garbage and then insisted that she get the water turned on because you can't live in a house without water.
I have passed by that house periodically, and the garbage was picked up. If that would have been my bill in my house where I'm living at now, you'd have been cutting me off. You wouldn't have let me wet there alone.
But nobody went by to read it because it was turned off as far as the city was concerned.
Yeah, and one of our new policies is when we turn somebody off, we've got to lock them because we've had a
Right.
couple of these lately, where they have somehow the water gets turned on.
I can understand her argument.
You don't.
I said, I understand your argument because if I didn't make the bill,
No, I didn't.
And
I have my own bill
and
with
it
the
never
city.
been in my name,
Never.
now you're gonna make me pay for somebody else
Somebody else water usage.
water usage, and then possibility when you say don't know, city turn it on, they turn it off or whatever. I don't know. Just-
Do
I
we
ain't
know
saying.
where the renters are?
All I know, the girl name is Nikki Robinson. Now, where she live, I have no idea.
And Mr. Mayor, you all could just direct that city staff all get together, Jennifer, myself, and Mr. Booth, and we can look into this
Sure.
further and make a recommendation.
Right.
Instead of putting you on the spot
Mm-hmm.
tonight when we all haven't
Right.
looked at this.
There's nothing, pending if you do that, there's no negative that is going to be impacted. I mean, if you guys look at this and
No.
come back, so she's not going to be adversely affected if there's a time lapse here.
Or the people at the house now, if she sold it, we don't.
Yes, I'm
No,
saying
there's
the
no
house.
there.
So there's no lapse. So can we do that? You guys get up and maybe we can,
Sure.
we can talk and come back and see?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get with her and make sure we communicate with her so we know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
Let us,
Okay, another complaint I have. We had a fire. I think it was last Saturday night.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Okay, that's the second house has been burned down across from each other, and I've come to you about that. So what are you gonna do about 2 houses now?
No, ma'am, I'm going to come to you and say we want to know who's doing it.
I don't know who's doing it, but
We
I
don't
want it
either.
cleaned up. I want it cleaned up.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I'm saying. This
Well,
is-
we then have to go to the owner. I mean, we have a legal responsibility of going to the owner and making them clean it up. If they don't, then we will do so.
Well, crossing that, it's been over 2 years, and you mean to tell me you haven't gotten in touch with the owner about that one?
That I don't know.
Would this be something that Bill could look into?
It is, sure.
Well, let's do this. Let's make sure Bill has this at the top of his list. And I would like at no later than the next meeting, I would like Bill to, this is our codes person. I would like Bill to provide us an answer to this question from a time sequence standpoint.
Right.
So we got that?
Yeah,
Appreciate that, and thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
the last house that burned there on Saturday night, it was because people had a bonfire in the back and burned the house.
But I would just like to know from our standpoint what we're able to do and what is the process for us to take care of it. And so I would like to Bill to come. Bill doesn't have to be here, but he can give us a written type of deal so we would know. And so she will know that there's some end game to this as opposed to being a question mark.
Actually, the owners have contacted us, and so they may be willing to go ahead and clean the other house. We'll see if it was abandoned, and then we'll.
But I still want to make sure we have that. I don't want speculation. I would want to make sure we have something so she has some finality. Right. So she knows if it's going to take a month, whatever the time frame is, so she would know.
Right.
Okay? All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing none, I'll close citizens' comments, and we'll move on to new business. Item number 1, discuss and consider request for utility bill waiver by St. Madeleine Community Outreach. We have in our paperwork, and I know there's something up here on the deal from Dick Williams. Is he here?
Yes, he is.
I apologize, sir, for not. Mr. Williams, I'll let you go ahead if you make your point, sir.
I should be here more often. The last time I was here, I think it was 4 years ago. I think I was up there asking for the same thing. Anyway, I'm here representing the St. Madeline's Community Outreach. The outreach has been in this community in one form or the other. It started out as the High Springs Social Services about 15 years ago. And we've been operating, and the city's been operating, and charities and so forth. 4 years ago, the building that they were occupying, that we were occupying at that time, which is next to the old city jail and is a water plant, I guess, was condemned. So that was the building we were using. So at that time, we found ourselves without a building, and then our primary source of funding was also eliminated. So we ended up with no funding and no building, and we were in dire straits. We could no longer help the community and serve the poor of our community. So at that time, rather than throwing in the towel and giving up, we decided we were going to see what we can do. We went to the city, we went to others, we went to different groups, we went to all sorts of charities, went to our church, went to the diocese, and this city very graciously said that we could use the old planning building, which at that time and still is, at that time was vacant. And so they very graciously gave us this building so that we could house our efforts to help the poor. So we moved in and so forth, and at that time, we were very short of money, and we're not really rich right now by any means. So I then came before the city commission and asked if you could please waive the utility fees, because by doing that, we would then have that money would then be used to help the poor of the community. And that's the way it's been for the last 4 years. But now we find ourselves, and we're a little late on the payment and so forth, but there was some problem with getting the original letter. We couldn't find it anywhere. So, but in any case, we're asked again to pay the utility fees. And it's not that we can't pay them, it's not going to be, but the problem that we're having, if we pay that amount of money, which will probably amount to about $80, that's $80 that we can't use to help the poor of this community. And how many people will that affect? Well, that will probably feed 2 or 3 families a month. So we're coming before you now and saying, can you weigh one with the other? can you waive those fees and allow us to go ahead and contribute that money to help the poor of your community? And that's what I'm here for now, asking again for you to please waive the fees. And before we get into that, I'd like to also say that I am extremely happy, and I want to be very thankful for this city commission and the city for allowing us the use of that building. Without it, we could not be doing what we do. We serve over 300 families a month. And figure that times 3 or 4 people per family. It's a lot of people. And they get food and clothing without any regard to race, creed, color, religion. If you need help, you can come to us, and we're there to help. Thank you.
Commissioners?
So the one question I have, Mr. Williams, is you said it'd be about $80 a month, but Jennifer gave us a breakdown that you had increased to a dumpster recently, which is at a cost to us, I believe, of $76.69 a month. So that's in addition to the water sewer refuse. So I'm not sure if you guys have gotten a bill with that. What would their bill be? $137.98 is the amount. So why did we go to a dumpster over there? Why are we?
It's the amount of waste that we have. There's the clothing that comes in. Some of it is just, a good deal of it is just unusable clothing. And so we have to get rid of that. We have numerous cardboard boxes that come in. The food that's delivered often comes in cardboard boxes, and it's just much more than we could handle with our normal trash cans out.
I had been over there and seen the trash piled up around there recently, so I know that that was a problem. But that's an expense that we literally are paying to a vendor, not an expense that we're creating ourselves.
If I may, I did not include that in it. We're more than willing to pay. That's an extra fee and something that we incurred fairly recently. Okay. So we're more than happy to go ahead and take care of that. It's the normal utility fees that I'm asking
Water
for.
and sewer that
Yes.
you're looking for
Yes, ma'am.
abatement.
Well, I'll make a comment on the deal. Is this happened, I think, in May, I think, is when the commission, we had a hodgepodge. And you all, if I make a mistake here, you correct me. We had a hodgepodge as to what we were doing regarding situations like yourself. Some were paying rent, others weren't paying utilities. Some were paying utilities, unpaid rent. And so what we wanted to do was try to uniform the process. The building we can get by, there's no cost to us when we do it. So, and I was part of it. I'm not going to back down and say what. And to me, the fair thing was to charge the utilities, because that's the price of operating. We can give you the building without rent, but the fees are something that we arrived at as a commission that seemed fair to work, because that is just a business operations. That's why it was changed. So in this one here, that's how it came about. So I'll see if anyone else wants to offer any comments before I go on.
Well, right now, that's the basis for all of the people.
Everyone now comes underneath it was it an ordinance? It wasn't an ordinance, a resolution that we did?
No, that was just a new policy.
So that's what we did.
It was new, our new lease agreement.
That's right, in the lease agreement.
That
Okay.
the attorneys had written.
Okay. Thank you.
So I know how much your organization serves this community and wholeheartedly support it. The problem that I see is a precedent that we would set, because there's other buildings we give rent-free, and they also serve the community, and then we would have to be able to absorb those, whether it be the High Springs Daycare site, which does serve very needy, underprivileged families, Boy Scout site, which serves children in our community. And I'm just concerned if we set a precedent, then we're going to end up in a situation where we're not only giving free rent, but we're also absorbing utilities for a number of agencies that we're trying to help, because it does help our citizens. And as much as I personally would like to give you the money each month, I'm just really concerned that that would be a financial burden to the city, because we're taking that out, out of the basically our budget. And so that would just be my concern, it works out to be $61 a month. That's, $750 a year times however many buildings that we have, out there. So I'm on the fence on this one because I believe your organization is truly beneficial, not only to High Springs citizens, but many of the surrounding areas, which you put in here that you have people from Columbia, Dixie, Gilchrist, Swanee, and Union counties.
Could I add something on? Okay. I would like, you're talking about it is a policy. Okay, it's something that's fairly recent. We've been in this situation with the city now for over 4 years. And I would offer that if the other ones, the Boy Scouts and so forth, feel that they should be waived, their fees should be waived, then they have the opportunity to come before the commission and ask for you to waive those fees. Just because it's a policy doesn't mean it's set in stone. You have the opportunity to change that and at will.
Agreed.
If you think there's a good cause, and I'm asking you to do that because we're not going to use the money frivolously. That money that we save by not paying that fee will be used to feed the needy of this community.
Yes.
Okay, and I want to point that out, and that's a service that we're providing for the city, I might add.
I just want to clarify a point. He's correct that it used to be that we were not charging some of the nonprofits utilities. However, the actual rules in High Springs say that we don't provide free service for utilities. So it was something that a previous commission was doing, obviously out of the goodness of their heart and in furtherance of some great causes. But what our ordinances actually say is that we don't provide free utility services. So if this is something that you are interested in considering, then I think that it's something that we need to address in our ordinances. So it's not just individual nonprofits coming before you, that we've actually amended our utilities section to allow for something like this. If that's what you want, or city buildings for nonprofits, whatever it is, the policy that you want. So I know it's kind of a little unclear and what our past practice was versus what our ordinance is versus kind of what our rental agreements, lease agreements say now. But if this is something that you seriously want to consider, then I think that it's an actual policy that needs to be adopted in concert with our utilities codes, because I do think that you're going to run into problems if you're offering free or reduced utility services to some organizations and not others.
Ms. Jones?
I understand what you're saying, that they can come before the board and ask for the same thing, but then again, what we basically would have to do is say that we're going to do this for all of the services that do your type of the charities here in the city of High Springs. And as, I'm not sure who said it, but this is something that is charged. It's not something that we have control over. So, unfortunately, we will have to do one or the other. And since it's in our ordinances already, I'm afraid my vote is going to be that we're going to have to turn you down. And I agree that you provide a wonderful service.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, as I'm looking at this, it's going to total out on an average with the new dumpster at around $138 per month. And that you say will cover about how many families on an average?
Well, 70, I'm figuring on $70 would be 2 to 3 families. So you're looking at twice that amount. So probably 6 to 8 families. I mean, we buy our food wholesale and in large quantities. So we go shopping every day.
So we're winning a minimum of 6 families against $138.
Anybody else?
Well, that's why I thought we kind of came up with this lease agreement to kind of make it fair across the board for everyone. But most of your organizations that do have these services are not profit organizations,
Right.
and most of them just barely making it. Not only yours, using the daycare for instance. If we as a community didn't pitch in to help that daycare center, it wouldn't survive.
They're certainly a worthy cause. I have no. They're certainly a worthy cause. The daycare.
Yeah, and so then that's. But now the way we have it now, because one while some was paying rent, some was paying the utilities. But with the policy came with the lease agreement, I think it's a fair way. Because I think I'd rather pay the utility bill than pay rent. Just, I think rent gonna be a little bit more than the utilities. So I think it's a fair agreement, lease agreement that we. Although I understand what you're saying, do understand, very much so. But if we change it for you, then we're gonna have to do it for all the rest of the organizations. So that being said, I kind of want to keep it fair for everybody. Can I put it that way?
I can see which way it's going. So I would like, I certainly understand that, and I would not want to, cut into something like the daycare center and so forth. If that's where it's going to be, then I understand that. I anticipate, of course, that your commissioners will probably be contributing to us anyway, so then we'll make up that difference and so forth.
And the other thing, Mr. Williams, perhaps you could talk to the other churches in the community and maybe get some support through them, because I know they're very supportive already of your organization.
Yes.
And if 10 churches gave $13 each or $14 each on a monthly basis as a commitment, your bill would be paid. So as much as I personally would like to help you, I just don't feel that that's the decision that we should make for the city. And sometimes that's a conflict, what you really want to do personally versus what you have to do up here.
Well, if I'm speaking out of turn to say so, but I certainly understand what you're going through right now, and I can only say that no matter what, we are extremely thankful for the city and for the offering of this building. That we have taken very good care of the building, but the city has always been there with us and so forth. And so for that, I really want to thank you and hope this relationship continues in the future by all means. And we're talking about probably $70. And certainly we can handle that. But when these things come up, I just feel obligated that we need to stand up and explain our situation. So I understand where you're coming from, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say, sometime in the future, the commission can consider, I know some utility companies will offer an option on their bill that other residents can contribute either to a situation like this for nonprofits who have requested it or nonprofits who are on a list, or for other needy families out there who maybe are struggling with their bill. So that's certainly something that we could discuss at some point.
And we actually have somebody that has approached us that's one of our vendors that wants to start helping out some of the, for us to send them people that they want to help. So I would be more than glad to send if they want to send your name along with everybody else's to help out with that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
The consensus, as he knows, is to keep it as is.
Yes.
There's not a vote. The consensus would be to keep it, maintain the rental as it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Number 2, consider authorizing the city manager to negotiate purchase of property adjacent to Memorial Park.
Yeah, there's not much negotiation, really. The owner wanted $66,000 an acre. We have 200,000 total, and that's what the negotiation is. But it's authorizing me to sign.
So the authorization would be to give you authority up to 50,000, or that's where it's going to be?
No, that's where it's going to be.
So we're going to authorize you to basically pay $50,000 an acre?
Per acre.
It's actually 51,546 per acre is what the amount comes out to.
Okay.
Can I ask where's this money? I know part of this money is that grant from the Wild Spaces, but not all of it.
No, all of it is.
All of it is coming from that. Okay. I did some research on this because I feel like we should have had a realtor we were working with rather than calling the listing agent. That's just my opinion. The only comparable piece of property that is literally a half a mile down the road is a 9 point. I got it here somewhere. If Brenda Forrester has it up for sale, it's 9.27 acres with a fixer-upper home and a double-wide mobile home at $399,000, which that's list price is about $43,000 an acre. So if we offer them this amount, this $51,546, we're paying 29% more than that list price, and we're paying, using the assessment amount, no, I'm sorry, it's 20% more than the list, 29% more than the assessment. I just feel that's too much money, and I know why we want it, but I just really feel like what happens when we overpay for a piece of property is going to affect the rest of the commercial properties on the 441 corridor, because then they increase the value. Property appraiser increases the value for everyone else on that corridor. I know because I was a victim of that when CVS bought the property and paid too much for it. So I just am really not comfortable with the price of this property. I think we're paying far more than top dollar. I think it's too much money. And I feel like we should be using a real estate agent, a local person, to handle these transactions, to do the due diligence before we put an offer out there, before we come up with a number, so that they can do that research. I spent a lot of time looking at this, and I know why we want it. I'm not negating that we want it, but I just really think that this price is, this guy must have been really happy when he got a phone call. You know, and I know the listing agent. They actually are the people that sold my building for me. So I just don't feel comfortable with this amount.
Excuse me, would you run your figures by again? We're looking at,
okay.
You said 51.
We're looking at, right now, the piece of property we're looking at is a total of 3.88 acres. And at that $200,000 price, it's $51,546 an acre if we pay $200,000 for that. The other land that's for sale is coming up at $43,140 an acre. That's not counting the structures on the property or anything. That's the listing price, and that's been on the market for 680 days. So almost 2 years, because the price is high enough. So that actually, the price of the property we're looking at would be 20% more than that property that's a half a mile away. And then the appraised value right now on these parcels is $76,100 each. So that's $152,200, which comes out to $39,227 an acre for appraised value. And we would be 29% above that.
We could offer him a lower amount. See, we haven't actually turned anything in.
I'm not trying to be difficult, but I just really think you don't understand the ramifications. When you overpay, then it hurts the other property owners who are also residents or people in the city of High Springs. And I don't feel that it's using the money as wisely as we can.
Of course, the.
No, you're good.
the reason why, one of the biggest reasons why we want to purchase that is it's right next door to the baseball fields.
I know.
And it's going to be very beneficial to the baseball field, to what we have going on there.
I know I actually met with Robert the other day and had a long conversation with him about, future planning, and I know what that vision is. But I'm a business person, and I'm going to tell you this is too much money for that piece of property. Okay? And I bought real estate and sold it, and that's my opinion.
So that's what he's asking for that.
No, he was asking 66,000.
66,000.
And he is selling a total of 6 acres. I'm sorry, he was selling 4, 8, 9, 10 acres. And we can only buy 4 of them, that's all we want.
They're the ones that are adjacent to the ballpark.
They are.
And I would like to ask you one more question. I was sick. I was watching the last meeting we had, and you mentioned something about Edgemoor residents not being happy with the trees being brought down. Did you get that information from somebody?
No, I just think that we should notice them, that's what we're going to do. I just am wondering if that would be an issue because they have a very nice private entrance there.
We don't have any say-so as to who this realtor sells to. They almost put a huge car wash there a couple of years ago. And fortunately, DOT was going to make them spend $500,000 to put the speed-up lane. So they didn't put it in. Our fear, those of us who have talked about this, is that they put something in there as a business, it goes under, and then it sits there. And it's not cared for. The land is not cared for. We feel like if the city has it, it's going to be cared for. It's not going to be vacated. And but we have no recourse. He can sell it to anybody he wants. I mean, that night at the meeting, he would have put that up if it hadn't been for the speed up lane. And though we were not happy with it, there's nothing we could do about it. So for those that I have spoken with at Edgemoor, and I've lived there over 10 years, that's not something that we would be adverse to. And there's a lot of children there as well. A lot of children in Edgemoor.
It would be a great benefit to Edgemoor if we was to create another park there.
Right. We can start the negotiation at any point.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Negotiate. That's what he say he want. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, let's negotiate this something.
It doesn't have to be that.
What number do you want me to start?
Well, the assessed value on each parcel, each 1.94, is $76,100 on the property appraiser sites right now for 2017. That would be $152,000.
So each of the parcels are what? Yeah.
76,100. Each 1.94 acre parcel is what he's paying taxes on at this point.
And Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to let you know, in case you guys didn't want to negotiate from the dais, you can, set it. Tell the manager that if you're unhappy, if you're dissatisfied with this price, you can authorize the manager to go back out and negotiate and bring it back to you. I mean, I'm not trying to stop the exercise if you all want to do that, but in case you didn't want to have to set a range up here tonight during a public meeting, you can authorize your city manager to do that.
I think the interesting part would be is obviously if you read property values have gone up anywhere from 10 to 15%. How that impacts the vacant lot, I don't know. I would very much like to see us get this, but I don't want us to sell the ranch to do it. I do think, as it's been said, I think to purchase that property, have it next to the ball field, allows us a lot of opportunities down the road on what we want to do. Not to sound cute or whatever, but they're not making anymore. And this would be land that we would have that would be available to go. Is there a top range that you all would want to do? I mean, my problem with this one is I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of negotiation, because if we sit here and we talk to kids here, it's on public deal. They're going to hear what we're saying, and it's go, well, let's just go to the top value, and because I mean we're saying, well, geez, your commission allotted you.
And that is why we really should have had our own realtor doing that homework for us to give us a comparative market analysis that would have been the person that would have made that offer or approached with that, because that's why you have a realtor do that for you as you're looking at a piece of property, because that's what they do and that's their job, and they do it well usually.
Do they charge any money?
No, the buyer doesn't get charged a cent, and the seller on these properties is already signed into a contract that he's paying whatever commission he's negotiated with that listing agent. And again, I use them. Bo Berry's office is a wonderful office. They're very good realtors. But if you look at commercial property anywhere in this area, because I've done a lot of research, it's on the market for a really long time. That one that's half a mile down the road's been on the market for, 682 days or something. The reason it's on the market is because the prices are elevated so high, and so maybe if you negotiate it down a little, then the prices will move. But if we buy that for that price, then like I said, everyone down there, I know, because property appraiser, I went head to head with them about value on my building, because they were using CVS property as the comp. And so they'll take the highest comp, and everybody around there gets evaluated at that, and it hurts the rest of the people. And that's not really what we want to do either. I know you want this property. I understand that. I just feel like it's top dollar and then some for this at that price.
Comments?
Maybe we could take a look at it, not offering the lowest and not offering the highest either, but sort of take a second look at it and see what we can do with it. I don't know. But I wouldn't want you to mingle with it to the point where you lose the opportunity to get it.
Well, I guess I would say this at this point. Either we can direct the city manager to engage in negotiations, and we can basically direct him to get the best deal possible, and then
bring it back to us.
Well, yeah. I think you bring it back, and I think we basically, there has to be some level that we have to trust when he goes do it. But obviously you go there. I think you've heard the sentiments. I think you understand the sentiments of where we're at.
And we'll get an appraisal of it.
And I think that's where we
actually there has been one on it already.
So Courtney, if we were to just direct him to negotiate and bring it back to us prior to any,
sure,
that's all we would need to do.
I'll get an appraisal.
Right. So he can sign a kind of a contingent offer agreement with them, but it's just with the full knowledge and understanding that it's coming back to this board. So you're giving him authority. Nothing's final. So you're giving him authority to go and do that. And obviously he's heard some direction.
A commercial appraisal is going to be quite expensive. Doing a market analysis with a realtor might be a less, because commercial property appraisers, it takes them a long time to do the appraisal. It's not like the residential, and they charge a lot of money.
True, except it's already been done.
Okay.
We didn't pay for it.
Okay.
Well, we don't want to incur any cost.
No, we don't.
On this deal, let's make sure that's so you got that direction. We're not spending money to do this. So
no.
are we okay with authorizing, but nothing's done, it's got to come back to us to approve it. So if it comes back and we think the price is too high, then we just say no. Nothing can be consummated until it's brought back to us.
Right.
Everybody okay?
I'm okay.
But let's see how good your negotiation skills are. I would very much like us to get that, but like I said, and I agree with what Commissioner Linkus is saying. You don't want to sell the farm.
No.
I think it's a valuable piece of property since we own the one there. But let's in your negotiations, let's think of the causal effect of other land and others within the deal.
We haven't offered anything and nothing has come back.
This isn't a one deal, one time. This purchase doesn't stand alone. There's other properties, and so obviously this would affect, just like if somebody were to sell it down the road. So if you would do that, do your best, come back and make sure that whatever's signed is not final until it's board approved.
There is property to the west.
Right. Okay.
So, yes.
All right. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, all of you. Moving on, item number 3. Consider approval of engineering services agreement for WWTF Effluent Treatment Disposal, the wetlands, with Midtown Associates. Mr. Booth?
This is a totally grant. It's a DP grant. It calls for the engineering of that project. It's paid for by the grant itself. It is developing the 3 ponds, and it's not just 3 ponds because the effluent has to go into one, then moved in the second, and then in final. There's a lot of, it'll cause us to hire somebody in the next maybe 2 years to manage it, and cut down the vegetation, to move it from one to another. But this is all covered by the grant. The grant itself is $2 million.
It's going to cost us
Pocket check.
$458,000.
Well, the cost of construction for the phase 1 is $1,199,000.
But that's total grant. There's no matching funds.
No. The total appropriation is $1,708,500.
Right.
But it is a non-matching.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
So that's the appropriation, and then the cost of construction is the almost 1.2
Right.
million.
Well, when you get into, for example, if you look at, the total engineering fees, 458, that's included within the grant. That's not our, we don't pay it. That's within the grant.
Correct.
That's all I want to say when we see it.
Right.
I didn't
So
know, when Gloria saw it, I didn't know, if that was a deal. That's all inclusive. Okay.
You add that to the construction cost.
Correct. And Nancy, if you don't, they're doing 3 ponds.
Right, I know.
Okay.
I talked to Mr. Booth about it.
Okay. So what do we need to do? We just need to have a motion to
Accept it.
accept it.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Up at the top of that page where it shows us the total engineering fee, there's a paragraph that says items furnished by client at no expense to the engineer. And it talks about regulatory agents, permit application fees, advertising costs, landscape plans, traffic studies, retaining wall design, many other things. And it's saying that that's exclusive of this engineering agreement. So if construction cost is $11.99 and $458 is our engineering fees, that leaves us not a lot, because the only amount that would be left, $509,500 less the $458. Is that going to cover all that? I don't know what those things cost.
Right.
So,
all those permits, which the city doesn't charge any permits. The Swanee River usually negates those fees. And so there isn't any retaining wall.
Okay.
Normal.
So there's about $50,000 wiggle room between that construction price and the engineering price, and so that $50,000 should cover any additional expenses that we might incur. Okay.
And then we don't know what the bids are, and so there may be additional from that.
Right. Okay.
Any others? Need a motion to approval of the agreement? Do I have that? Excuse me.
I make a motion that we approve the agreement with Tower Associates for
Right.
the DEP infiltration wetlands for
Right.
WWE effluent treatment / disposal.
There you go. You got it.
I'll second it.
I have a first and a second to consider the approval. Any other comments, questions? Jack? Good. Okay. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. I just simply say on this one here that this is another step, at least in my opinion, I'm going to speak only as me, since this is another step in the right direction where we're going within this sewer type of deal, preparing as we get capacity down the road. This is something we started, I think, a little over a year ago or so forth. We were talking, maybe longer.
About 3.
For this. Well, I mean, the actual plan came up for the 3 ponds and everything.
Yeah,
So I mean,
we
it's
worked
been
with the
there.
grants and then
The grant and everything. So we're finally getting there. So government's slow, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
So good job. Number 4, consider resolution 2018-A. Courtney?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is Resolution 2018-A, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of High Springs establishing the terms of an installment payment plan relating to the sewer system impact fee, authorizing the city manager to enter into installment payment plans with applicants and providing an effective date. Mr. Mayor, first I have one change to make to the resolution. In Section 2, Item F, it currently says failure to make timely payment will result in default and the impact fee being due in full less any amounts already paid by the owner. I would suggest that we change that will to may. And to provide some background on this, this commission previously, after a period of some years where the city had a moratorium on impact fees, a couple of years ago, the city reintroduced impact fees following a study on the cost of those. The city, as you know, is right now in a great phase where Mr. Booth has gone out and gotten a lot of grant funding, and we've got a lot of connections happening right now. And our impact fee ordinance requires these fees. They're not usually something that can be waived outside of some pretty specific circumstances that are found in our code of ordinances. However, it does say that if the city commission chooses by resolution, they can allow for installment payment plans of these impact fees. This commission has previously indicated a willingness to do that, and so this is just kind of crossing our T's and dotting our I's and making sure that we've got this in place before your city manager enters into this. So that's what this resolution does. It authorizes your city manager to actually implement those payment plans that we've already discussed, allowing our residents 3 years to pay off that impact fee.
And will this be just directed at this phase now, or is this ordinance going to cover any person that has an impact fee?
This is not specific to that phase. This would be anyone that would be required to pay an impact fee that you're authorizing the city manager to allow for installment fees.
So even like a new construction, if they're like a Habitat house or something,
yes,
we could work with them on these impact fees.
Yes.
Okay. And I think this is a good agreement, because I remember when we first started putting the sewer system in, a couple of residents was offered some whatever, and they didn't pay, and then they end up giving it to them, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's a very good agreement, because I think everybody should pay their share. I don't think the city should have to.
And these impact fees, as a reminder, these go to help with future growth and development in the city of High Springs, which is why it's so important, as you guys know, as we continue to grow. And Mr. Booth has become something of a genius when it comes to wastewater, and how he keeps finding capacity and finding ways for you guys to be more efficient, to offer capacity has been a great thing. But at some point you still are going to reach those limits where, DEP is going to come in and say, no more growth until you expand the system. And that's why we've got these impact fees. And so obviously Jennifer monitors it like a hawk, but we can't spend that money on anything. So they're important fees, but we do monitor them. But that's what we need to be able to continue to grow as we've got new connections and people coming in.
Courtney, you've got in here the impact fee will be paid prior to sale of residence, which is a common thing. How is that enforceable? Because it's not on the tax bill. How is it enforceable?
So we will actually have an agreement that will lay out how we will do that all. But that can be, and these will be, we can file all of these in the county records, so it would be.
Then it would come up when they do a title search. Okay.
It'll also be, we're going to put it on their bill, so if they sell their house and they take their account out of their name, then that whole fee will be put on their account, so wherever they go, they're going to be responsible for that final bill. So we'll be aware of that.
Okay.
Good. Very good.
I think this is a good, I think the state allows 2 years. I think in the ordinance, I think the state allows up to 2 years for somebody to pay it. So we're extending it by 1 year. The state does it 3. And I just want to emphasize or restate on what Courtney said was the fact that we're not real far away from capacity. And we don't want to take out another bond.
Right.
And so these, it's painful, these impact fees as we go is be there to allow us to increase capacity. We get to 80%, we have to have a plan in place to how we're going to be capacity. So that's why these are here. And I think this is a reasonable, as Mayor Williams, excuse me, you just did it so often I lost Commissioner Williams said it's a reasonable deal. And you can also, Mr. Booth, if you would speak to, I think, if you get early payment, if we're a year out, people who know we're on the system can actually start paying it now.
They can,
rather than waiting if they choose to.
That's true.
So they have the option to sort of like start to pay it up front, and so forth. So, okay. So do I have any motion for this to?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2018A.
A second.
As amended with the language change.
Yes, as amended with the change to item F.
Second.
I have a first and a second to approve the resolution 2018-A with the amended language will substituted for may. Any comments?
No, maybe substitute.
May for will. Yeah, I apologize. Thank you.
Okay.
Any comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Tate?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Cough. Thank you. At this point in time, city attorney report.
Just briefly, as you're aware, we have a couple of active litigations going on. Several of you have been deposed or will be deposed soon. We are currently set for mediation in both of our Ontario and La Bianca litigations, and those are scheduled for January 22nd and January 26th, respectively. We've had a few delays with depositions, as I'm sure many of you know, and we appreciate your patience on that. And so the court has pushed back our trial dates for both of those to make sure that everybody has enough time. And so those are currently set for May 22nd for La Bianca and June 29th for Ontario.
That's the trial date.
Those are the trial.
What are your mediation dates? Or
the mediation dates for La Bianca is January 22nd.
And 26th.
Ontario is January 26th.
Okay.
And then we have another case, the Richards case, and that one is currently set. The city is taking the plaintiff's deposition in February.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that it?
Yes, so I'm happy to talk to any of you in more specifics outside of the meeting, but it's usually our policy not to discuss substantive specifics
Agreed.
in the public meetings, but I just wanted to let you know that we are proceeding with all three of those.
Good deal. Mr. Booth?
Yes, okay, in front of you, you have a spreadsheet. You also have state law that most of the work on this was done by New, and New is an engineer, so you can understand. He has, but I'm going to try to simplify this. The Alachua County and Gainesville have been in negotiations for the last couple of years. And they were looking to split the 11 cents gas tax because it's coming due, and they have excluded the 9 other cities. That's, gosh, you wonder why. All right, and they came up with the results, and they want to do 50% for the county and 40.3% for Gainesville. And the other amount goes to the other 9 cities, and they didn't care how we split. The truth is that we feel because of our growth and because of all the other and the mileage and everything, it should be 12% instead of 9%. 3 cities, both Newberry, High Springs, and Alachua, are owed the lion's share. The other cities is Micanopy and La Crosse and such are owed a smaller amount. So that puts basically what the county did was put all the small cities at odds with each other, because many of the small cities live and die off the taxes. This is only the 11 cent county tax. We still get money from the state and the federal gas tax. So my recommendation on all of it is that we need to take it to appeal. And both Newberry and Alachua and I believe High Springs needs to appeal this to the state. Because truly, they, if you read the law, they have to deal with Gainesville because they're 51% of the population. But that doesn't exclude us. And we think that the state will take a better view of it rather than the county's no view.
So what is the formula that they did this is like 30 years old or something.
It is.
I believe. So they're using a somewhat antiquated formula. I spoke with the gentleman on this one here. So.
Well, Mr. Mayor, just to interrupt for a second, they're using an antiquated distribution allocation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nobody actually knows what the formula was from 30. I just wanted to make
wrong words.
No, I just wanted to make
verbiage.
it clear that that's one of the concerns that the cities have had is that there's no way to go back and calculate how to arrive at that number. So this distribution allocation has been the same for 30 years, and these agreements, these distributions are usually good for 10 years. And so it's quite possible that 30 years ago, the distribution allocation was fair. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, now we don't know how those numbers were arrived at. And so
actually,
the way this...
Excuse me, but actually it's method 3 that they're using historically is what's being used. Mm-hmm. And as Courtney was saying, it's way... Yeah.
So the statute has a kind of a default formula that's in there, or it allows a county to enter into an interlocal agreement with the city or cities. I'm sorry, they say municipality or municipalities that represents the majority of the incorporated areas. So while Gainesville is certainly the only city on its own that fits that bill. The statute doesn't prohibit all of the other cities from joining into the interlocal. But if they choose the interlocal instead of the default formula, they do have to allocate for all eligible municipalities. So they negotiated this. They've been negotiating for some time. The county recently adopted the interlocal with the same distribution, and the city of Gainesville is set to adopt it next Thursday, the 18th. So what some of the other managers have requested from the county and the city of Gainesville is, please don't adopt this yet. Let's have time for everybody to come to the table as it affects us all and discuss it. And so the response from the county and the city of Gainesville was, we'll allow the 8 smaller, if you will, municipalities to get together and they can discuss distribution of the 9.2%. And so your manager has been a part of negotiations with those other managers, and I think they've agreed to continue to meet, but I think the thought is that it's going to be hard to make any headway without the county and Gainesville sitting at the table and having more of the funds on the table.
So what are you doing?
We want to appeal. I don't believe that nobody's going to try to negotiate. He's going to have to go to the state.
So there is a provision in the statute that allows for an affected party to appeal to what we call the Administration Commission, which is essentially the governor's cabinet. It's pretty rare for this to occur and a little bit uncharted, but there is a statutory provision for it, and it has been done before. So I think the hope would be that all parties will be able to come to the table and negotiate that, but should Gainesville choose to move forward next week, then if you are going to appeal, you are going to be on a tight time frame to get that done. So even if you appeal, it doesn't mean that it shuts down opportunities for negotiations, but you would want to preserve your right.
Okay.
We have 21 days if Gainesville accepts it on the 18th.
And it looks like at that point that is what is going to happen.
Yeah,
it is on their agenda, and
Sure.
at this point they plan to.
Is everybody okay with pursuing this to try to get
Right,
the
it's a
change?
considerable amount of money.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're all in agreement to go ahead and pursue this. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't ask, you won't get it.
Okay, I have a number of dates. 15th, which is Monday, a holiday. We have a walk at 10 o'clock here. We'll have police escorting. I'll try to get a gator to take people who can't walk that far. On the 16th, there is a historical committee. You're in trouble, bud. I know.
On the 16th?
On the 16th.
Okay.
And we are also going to go over, because it's been a long time, the planning and zoning and some of the things that are coming up for that. On the 18th, we have a workshop here, and that starts at 6.
Information meeting.
Yeah, information meeting, period.
It's not a commission.
It's not a commission.
workshop.
No, we don't.
No, it's my staff.
Last time.
We're not there.
No, you're not there.
Okay.
You bet. And then on the 18th, sometime in the afternoon, Gainesville will be voting on the gas tax. On the 23rd, the county is going to vote on the wetlands ordinance they have that they say also includes the city. It's kind of, and I'm writing an op-ed about this. It's the county feels that home rule only applies to them. That's their feeling, that it doesn't apply to us that we are sort of an entity underneath them and their home rule. They need to go to class. Anyway, so you can imagine the op-ed that'll be in the Sun News. On the 25th, there's a CRA meeting, and we will find out the results from the historical board. Yeah, I know. I know. Then 26th, there's a chamber banquet. On the 30th...
Don't leave that one so fast.
Huh? You went too fast?
No, I was telling you don't leave that one, but go ahead. I'll make up the difference.
You'll make up the difference.
Okay, I'll make up the difference.
And then on the 30th, Bill and I will have to go down to Jacksonville. It has to do with the census, and it is the boundary annexation and boundary for that census. And the census is going to all be on computer.
Yeah.
So you have to go to your computer. There are a lot of people, especially homeless, that don't have computers. I have no idea how it's going to work, but I'll probably find out. Now, one thing with all the managers getting together in one room, that we talked about debris for a few minutes. We're all going to get together because no one was able to get the county to collect. They got WCA to do some of it and Waste Pro to do a little bit, but really we need to meet the FEMA requirements, and so we feel if we all get together, we'll be large enough that maybe a company will be interested, because alone no one is interested. And so our people are out there collecting it up, and that is basically it.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Linkus?
The meeting for the sewer that's on the 18th, how did we notice those residents about that? Did we send them letters?
We did.
Yes.
We
Okay.
put letters in the door
Okay.
and gave it to them.
In the last meeting, you talked about the grant that is for the water lines west of City Hall, and you indicated a February timeline that might be starting. Do you have any more information on that?
Yet only starting. And
Right.
next week, Fox, who is our grant writer, will be here along with Tim Norman. And we're going to walk that area and look at it, and that will start the process.
Okay, and they'll start gathering the data that's needed for
We
them
will,
to
that's
determine
right.
if we need
It takes a while.
Right.
It may take up to 9-11 months before
Okay.
that project is ready to go.
Okay. Code magistrate meeting, I thought we were looking at maybe a January meeting. Where are we at with the code magistrate?
We are, and I'm talking to Bill. Bill's trying to put it together, get the magistrate, and go with it.
Okay.
A lot of his cases, they're taking care of themselves.
Right.
I know the house that just burned down, we have a lot of these kind of things that we need to deal with because homeowners are not dealing with them or simply have abandoned.
I wanted to update you on Post Springs. There's a resident that had been here a few times and asked about Post Springs, and I finally spoke with Ernest Legree over at the county. So currently FEMA's in there doing repairs to the steps and getting the sand out of the spring area and doing repairs to the boat ramps. Once FEMA gets out of there, the county is going to go in and they're going to use some of that FEMA reimbursement to upgrade the boardwalk and lift it up so it doesn't get damaged next flood, but also make it ADA compliant. They're also going to replace the bathrooms out there in the spring area with a new system that's more ecologically friendly. So they're working on that. They're looking at a Memorial Day timeline that the park will be back open. The lodge is currently usable and the upper areas are usable, limited access, but at this point that's where they're at. So he was quite informative and said they can't get in there until the FEMA contractors get out. The other thing I want to talk about for this year is street maintenance and repair here in our city. I walk my dogs. I have driven around to a lot of neighborhoods. Our streets are in very bad condition, and when you call and ask for them to come out, they'll fill the potholes, but like there's other areas right next to the pothole that's just in such disrepair, but they're not putting any of the patch in there. The sides of the roads are in poor repair. We have to figure out some sort of a systematic way to go through some of the worst neighborhoods and start doing those repairs, cleaning the sides of the roads, you know, getting the buildup of debris so you can see. Because when I'm walking, honestly, I'm looking down like this, and when a car comes, you go off the side of the road, and I've fallen a few times, and I'm not the only person out there walking my dogs, and this is just my neighborhood. Patricia Gardens is really bad. I was over there. This northwest neighborhood, the northeast section up north of 441, all these old neighborhoods. And then the graded roads, those are the paved roads, but the graded roads have not been maintained either. And we need to start looking at getting, you know, not the sand, but the lime rock fill and getting them leveled out. So what I see happening is by not maintaining them, the damage is getting worse with each passing month. But I'm also concerned about liability. That's my biggest concern. We're going to end up with liability with people, children are riding bikes there, people are walking. So I'd really like us to, you know, by the end of March, have some kind of plan in place where we could systematically go through the different neighborhoods and start doing some of those repairs. I know we don't have money to replace these roads, but we can maintain them until we get money to start repairing or replacing.
Really, the budget is the place to do that, because we only have a couple people working in roads, and we require them to take down the Christmas decorations, put up for the CRA. I mean, we require a few people to do a lot of stuff. Really, we need a contractor to come in and do some of our road maintenance.
And there are two local contractors that I know of. Petty is one, and Blankenship's another, that, you know, are knowledgeable, because that's the other piece. You have to be knowledgeable about what you're doing. You know, I just think that it's going to be a huge liability if we don't start making it more of a priority.
Right, and we can certainly talk that in the budget.
But that's a year from now, and I'd like to see us doing something.
No, ma'am, it really comes quickly. It comes in October. I'm sorry. It comes in July and June.
Right, but I'd like to see us doing a little more of that maintenance before next budget year is what I would like to see.
And try budget amendment.
I think, just to follow up, and I don't mean to interrupt, Nancy, but is there a way, Ed, that David, with the sites that she gave, is there a way that we could internally go out there and sort of like rank the roads, prioritize them on the deal, so we would at least have, I know we did that at one point when I was on here first, we went and we did that. If we could do that, where now at least we've got something, and so we could at least start identifying those, that would be the first step.
Yeah.
And then we could proceed from there. But until we identify the roads specifically with what she's saying, then we don't know. So if he could at least start that process, we could get that process identifying, then we can start looking at money, and we can start looking at what needs to be done.
Great.
If he could do that, please.
We can start that next week.
Okay.
I'll take a day every week, and we'll go out and start identifying the roads.
I'm sorry, Nancy, I didn't mean to.
No, I just, you know, it's something that we need to do. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, that's enough for tonight.
Okay. Gloria?
She mentioned the road out there in Patricia Garden, and I was going to bring that up too, because several people have called me regarding that same road. They say it is awful bad out there, so we do need to sort of look at that one, that's for sure. And back when we had the storm, we did the survey, and we had the businesses that had lost money, you know, fill out paperwork and send it in. Have we gotten anything on that at all? Has anything happened with that?
We're still working on that.
You're still working on that? Because that's another one that I keep getting a memo recircled to me. What's happening with this? I haven't heard anything. Especially from the guy down here at the diner.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Uh-huh. All right. And I did want to say thank you for the cleanup that has occurred since the hurricane. Because I know a lot of the trees and piles and limbs and things that I have been watching, quite a bit of it has been moved. I know that there's some others that still need to be cleaned up, but thank you for what has been done already. And the annual banquet for the chamber is on January 26th, as Mr. Booth mentioned. It's going to be at the Women's Club, and it's going to start at 6 p.m., and tickets are going to be $20. And the theme this year is going to be the Roaring 20s. So we're asking you to come in costume, and there will be a prize for the best dressed female costume and the best dressed male costume. So come out, enjoy us with us, and have a good time. Hope to see you there.
Got it?
Got it?
It's all you, bud.
I guess I got to Google the 20s now, huh?
Yeah, you got to Google the 20s.
Really?
Yeah.
The 20s. And also with them roads, next time we'll have somebody come in here and do work again, because a lot of the problems with some of the roads out of Patricia got, but when they put that sewer system down,
I know.
they didn't correct that, put that road back like they should have. That's just the bottom line. And I do give them guys some credit. They do try to come out there and fill those some of them holes in.
Yeah.
They really do try their hardest to. Only thing else is, as Mr. Booth said earlier, come on and join us on Monday. We'll be here at City Hall at 10 a.m. and we'll start walking at 11.
That's right.
Probably at 11, not 11:05, not 11:10, but 11.
Right. We'll have police escorts, wear worn clothes.
Come out. We got some young kids that's gonna be sharing with us on that day. And
Okay.
Okay.
right.
I'm good. I'm just glad everybody's back. We're ready to rock and roll. We have things to do. I'd like to make sure we pay attention to the details. Mr. Booth, you and your staff, you do a great job. Let's take care of business. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. We're out of here.